Hello, good morning everybody out there and welcome to the newspaper review here on Newsbuster TV. My name is Jennifer and it's great to be here this new month, this new day and this Friday. All right, and of course it's the newspaper review, so it's straight to the papers. I've got 4 papers spread in front of me this morning and I will start with the first paper on my left. On the far left, I've got the New Telegraph newspaper, quite some headlines this morning. Above the masthead, we see the first story says external reserves inch up to $33.95 billion at end August as the sovereign dollar bond drops amid a $3 billion loan, and that is Nigeria's gross external reserves rising for the first time in over 3 weeks, and this is quite a development. So this data was obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria. All right, to get more, you can see that story on pages 3 and 25 of the newspaper. And below that, we see FAAC allocations, federal, states, local governments shared 4.37 trillion naira between January and June 2023, so says Nati. If you want to get the breakdown of those figures, it's on page 8 of the New Telegraph. And below the masthead, this time several stories and boxes there. We see federal government to close MMIA, that's the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Ikeja, Lagos, from October 1st as directives to airlines to relocate to the new terminal. That's coming from the new Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Management in the person of Festus Keyamo. And it's causing quite an uproar and some confusion. You can get those lead stories on pages 2, 3, and 29 from that paper. And on pages 5 and 27, local council polls. This is from Edo State. There's no restriction of movement in Edo on Saturday. Coming from the governor, I thought usually when we have such polls, elections, and things like that, people are meant to stay put. Why is there, no stoppage of people, staying put? Why are people going to move freely? Isn't it going to affect the outcome of those polls? Well, you can see is that story. It's on pages 5 and 27. Then on pages 2 and 6, we see the chairman of the Police Service Commission, Dr. Solomon Arase. He says to the federal government to intensify the war against human trafficking as hundreds of children are sexually abused in Lagos. I think this came on the heels of a book that was launched by a journalist yesterday, Juliana Francis, on child trafficking and abuse in female children. So you can get that story on pages 2 and 6 from the New Telegraph. Then on page 5, confusion as Wagner boss Prigozhin dismisses reports of his elimination in video. Yes, there's quite a stir of controversy there. Some say it's an old video. Others are arguing that it's a newly released video. Not a lot of confirmation or information has come out from that, but we definitely will keep in the loop when we get the accurate situation report on the Wagner Group boss Prigozhin. All right, now the big story, which I believe is all over the world. It's said, coup scare. Rwanda sacks 83 military officers. Cameroon reshuffles positions as coup supporters parade new leader in Gabon. You must have heard there was a coup in the Central African state of Gabon, in the capital Libreville. And Niger says military option will be a last resort if diplomacy fails. That's on the Niger issue. This is coming from our president, who's the chairman of the Economic Commission of a Community of West African States, ECOWAS. He's telling that to the NSCIA. And he also has committed 50 billion naira to rebuilding of the Northeast and the Northwest. And Atiku, presidential candidate for the last presidential elections, tells African leaders to deal with disease, not symptoms, still referring to the spate of coup rising all over Africa. Like I rightly said in a commentary, I think if your house is in order, there's nothing to be frightened about. So the African leaders who are fretting, running helter-skelter, running from what is the obvious, running from, you know, an unctuous that is definitely moving in. I think that if there was nothing to fear, if your country has been in order, if things have been going around to the citizens, if there has been enough social welfare, is that your economy is stable, if your politics is free and fair, there is really nothing to worry about. It's just that a lot of African leaders have this thing about holding on to power eternally. So Gabon has learnt its lesson, especially the president, the hard way. So more of that on pages 2, 3, 4, and 27 of the New Telegraph. And sadly, this is an international bit. It says more than 70 dead in Johannesburg Tower block blaze. That story is on page 3 and 4 from the New Telegraph. Reports reaching us said that that building, it was a derelict and nondescript building that was largely housing a lot of foreigners and people who needed rehabilitation, people who were on welfare. A lot of them resided in that building, but the building, you know, was already running down. So unfortunately, a fire engulfed that building and lots of lives were lost. And it's a sad one, truly, considering that children were also died in that fire. So we condole with them, as also our president has condoled with the Republic of South Africa. You can get that story on pages 3 and 4 from New Telegraph. And on poverty elevation, federal government to reach out to 15 million households. Find out if you can be part of those who will be reached out to on page 26. Ijo Group drums support for Tompolo. Says TSL, that's Tompolo's security outfit, Tantita Security Limited, succeeded in curbing all theft. Yeah, to a certain degree, Tompolo's outfits has been helpful in the fight against you know, all theft and piracy on Nigeria's waters. But how strong and how long can that group fight terrorists and pirates and, you know, vandals in that region? They still need to collaborate with governmental security agencies, but thus far, good one from him. All right, well, on the ministerial ambition, yes, a lot of people are running to be included in President Tinubu's cabinet, and we see ministerial ambition. El-Rufai may bounce back as Sanusi, others mount pressure on Tinubu. Wait, ministers have been duly screened, you know, appointed. A lot of them are even going out of their way to prove how strong and tough they are and how eager they are to impute in the system of government. But I don't understand an El-Rufai coming back after the party is proverbially over. We need, at this point in this country, to rely on competence, not party favors or who you know or who can influence decisions for you, because at the end of the day, what really matters is the substance you're bringing in, not just your name. It's all about substance and bringing the best you can onto the table. All right, And there's a housing fund probe as reps threaten to subpoena bank CEOs, insists the AGF, the central bank governor must appear, petition ICPC over job racketeering allegations, abuse of tax incentives, waivers, economic sabotage. That's coming from Abbas. And a special report on page 26 that says gene therapy may cure alcoholism. Okay, I think you should pick up this paper when you hit the newspaper stands. It's got loads and loads of stories this Friday. And straight to the Vanguard. And from Vanguard, above the masthead, it says extortion truckers pay 40 million naira daily at Lagos Ports Corridor. A lot of these operators of trucks and other heavy duty vehicles have complained, are crying that they expend so much money, just parking or being in line or waiting to get goods transferred at Lagos Ports corridors. And they say this is performed by both state and non-state actors. They can't keep up with those high prices, so it's a plea to the government to wade into the matter. And all the stories there. We see poor governance responsible for banditry and kidnapping in the Northwest. That's coming from the Vice President, Kashim Shettima. And the government also say 2,588 children are sexually abused in Lagos. Hardship with patience and determination will succeed. That's coming from the president. Says the bitter pill must be administered to build a better future for the country. But we've had this slogan, one time too many. It's time for action. We can't keep up with our patience about swallowing bitter pills. It's time to get some water to wash down that bitter pill. All right, and the big story there, still on the coup scare. Sit tight leaders move against the military as Rwanda has retired 12 generals, over 800 other ranks, and Cameroon has reshuffled their military, walk on response to Gabon military coup. The GOC in Nigeria asked disloyal soldiers to leave the army. Gabon coup chief to be sworn in as transitional president on Monday. The ECCAS condemns Gabon's coup, why we should wield big stick on coupists. That's coming from our president, as he insists nobody is interested in war. Okay. And he has also directed the Sultan to go back to Niger, focuses on disease that bets coup. That's coming from Atiku Abubakar to African leaders. And legal luminary Femi Falana says poverty is responsible for coup in Africa. Could it be just poverty or greed or that need to feel and hold on to power? Well, we see as it goes. And there's a picture there of the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, shaking the chairman board of directors, Zenith Bank Jimovia, who he received formally at the presidential villa in Abuja yesterday. And on page 8, minister says federal government to establish mobile courts on FGM, that's female genital mutilation, sexual harassment in school and others. And on the 25th anniversary of the People's Democratic Party, it says 16 years in power, Nigeria's golden era. And that's a boast coming from them. FFG shuts MMIA October 1st and halts Nigeria Air Project. Halt? What did that project ever start? Talk less of halting? Yeah. Okay. I'm no government spokesperson. And Nigeria and the United Nations signed an MOU to tackle terrorism. I wonder what they're going to do. Are we going to get some kind of military aid? Or is it just going to be talks, diplomatic talks? We hope to see what that MOU is all about. And still on petrol scarcity, NNPC directs marketers to Pinnacle as pipelines under repair. That's coming from the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. And on sports, Lukaku joins Roma on season-long loan. I don't think that guy is really going to get paid. It's just like a loan, not a complete transfer. But we hope Romel sees some good in Roma and probably might just change sides at the end of the day. All right, that's from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And the Nigerian Tribune. From the Tribune, above the masthead, we see AU suspends Gabon after coup as Rwanda, Cameroon reshuffle military. And the Niger junta orders police to expel the French ambassador. Yes, for a while, the French ambassador has been told to leave Rwanda expressly by the military coup leaders, but he refused and he has stayed put. But now the police have been given a direct directive to make him get out of Niger Republic. And the big story from the Nigerian Tribune, as Keyamo suspends Nigeria Air Project, concession of airports. But I mean, you can't, I know all the ministers, everybody's been so effusive and, you know, emphatic about stamping their presence in the ministries they were appointed to work with. But Keyamo, I think he's even done more than Wike in just one day. He's closing up major revenue openers, like at the MMIA. I know the governments, there's a lot of revenue that gets raked in through that means. But for suspending several things, I'm not even talking about the Nigeria Air Project. That is for a discussion for another day. We're talking about the closure of several hangars. We're talking about, you know, a lot of things being closed down, and you can imagine the volume of revenue that will be lost during that period. Although there's like a move for the terminal, the planes to be moved to other terminals, but a lot is going on there. We hope he can keep up with that kind of gusto over time in the nature of his job. We don't just want a 1 minute action person. It has to be continuous, like government is a continuum. All right, still more stories from the Nigerian Tribune. We see this is quite another story on page 23. Police arrest owner of dogs that mauled child to death in Osun State. I thought, you know, animals like dogs and other ferocious creatures are meant to be contained. But why would you leave your dog running wild to maul children, to injure people? I read somewhere a man set his dogs on a policeman to evade arrest. These things are wrong. They're really wrong. Please, we should be knowledgeable about certain things. All right, and still on the issue of Niger, developments in Gabon have confirmed my fears. That's coming from our president. To know what his fears are, check out page 23. Osun APC suspends another 26 loyalists of Repositioned, who was the former governor of that state. But since Senator Adeleke came in, there have been a lot of pruning in, you know, the government of the day. So let's, it's all political as far as we are concerned. All right, PDP Southwest National Vice Chairman, all eyes on Makinde and Adeleke over Adagunodo's replacement. That story is on page 3. And still more pictures of Jimovia, the chairman of board of directors of Zenith Bank, with the president. Ogun Assembly summons Accountant General, JAAC committee members over alleged local government fund diversion. This is too early. I mean, too early for all this. Oh, Nigeria, God save us. And Delta, still on the Delta gubernatorials, appeal court orders election petition tribunal to retry the labor party's candidate position. That's a good one from the judiciary, if you ask me. And looking at the Punch newspaper, above the masthead, there's a picture of the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, and still on the airport expansion, government to demolish multi-billion-naira Lagos private jet terminals. Like I said, this is undue hardship. Is it about some kind of personal vendetta, or I don't know? Is it just in a bid to get the job done? These are people's investments and life savings, and like poof, it goes off in one day. Is there going to be any form of compensation for these people? I really don't know at this point. And the federal government is set to evict over 22 jets, and Keyamo relocates foreign airlines to the new terminal, which is okay, but all in all, I don't think it looks too good. Federal government, states, local governments share 4.37 trillion naira in 6 months. We need to see what those monies are doing for our states and local government areas. And still on the fear of coup, AU suspends Gabon as Cameroon, Rwanda retired generals and over 1,000 soldiers. The African Union says the suspension is enforced until democracy is restored. And Niger humanitarian crisis looms. We are going to see a high influx of people coming in from different corners of Nigeria's borders, especially those that border with, the Republic of Niger, and those are states that are namely up north. So we don't need this kind of issue. We've not dealt with ourselves as a people to settle ourselves, to eat, to have money to buy petrol, to be able to just live and survive like a sane person. How can we now have this mass influx of people? It's going to be, like sitting on a keg of gunpowder. All right, moving on from that, the Niger junta orders forceful eviction of French ambassador, cancels his visas and those visas of his family members. There's a picture, a very sad picture of the Johannesburg building that caught fire, where over 12 children and 60 others died in South Africa. Yesterday, we can see paramedics clearing the area, and we can also see onlookers and sympathizers behind the police line. So you can get that story on page 8. And on page 25, Nigerian Navy arrests Tompolo's men, and his firm Tantita is sure not happy about this. All right, on page 5, jealous lover kills girlfriend with sledgehammer. We're having too many violent crimes. I think people should start making appointments to have some kind of counseling to deal with trauma, anger problems, and all those issues. And the Attorney General of the Federation, the Central Bank of Nigeria governor, threatened with arrest for shunning probe. And this probe is coming from House of Reps, who have threatened them that they need to appear before them. All right, do I have any little bits of sports before we go? Yes, I think there's a bit of sports from the Punch. I like Punch sports. And we see handball, 18 players invited for World Championship. That's ahead of the 19th edition of the African Women's Youth Nations Championship. So 18 players have been invited to be to represent the country in Tunisia. There's a picture of Manchester City's Haaland there receiving, and FC Barca's Aitana Bonmanti posing with their season's 2022-2023 Men's and Women's Player of the Year awards during the UEFA Champions League group stage draw in Monaco yesterday. We also see the Minister of Sports, John Eno, after his Lagos National Stadium tour, weeping at the dilapidated condition of the stadiums there. And cricketers enthusiasts relish World Cup trophy tour. Okweri advances to Lagos badminton quarterfinals. All right, for these stories and more, check them out on page 30 on the sports page of the Punch newspaper. Oh, well, I think that's how far I can go with today's stories. There's so much more you can catch up with. It's a rainy Friday. Good rains to usher in the new month here in the city of Lagos. And thank you for being with us all through this week and enjoying the newspaper review. And of course, it's not the end of the news. The news is always in progress. So make sure you check out our websites where you can get all the real-time news dropping with breaking news and all that information on www.newsbusterng.com. There you get all the real live stories that we've put out there. And you should not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch all the news that we bring to you and all the quality content. Make sure you go to Newsbuster NG on YouTube, share, subscribe, like. And of course, all over our social media, we've got our handles at Newsbuster. So make sure you like, share, retweet, tell your friends about it. And we will definitely keep you in the loop. All right, do have a wonderful weekend. See you all next week. Bye now.